We have the semi-finals of the Champions Chess Tour Julius Baer Generation Cup 2024 happening between Alireza Firouzja versus Levon Aronian, and the person who wins this game will battle against Magnus Carlsen in the finals. And here Alireza is playing with the white pieces and Levon is playing with the black pieces. The game is very interesting and very instructive if you wanna improve your endgame skills. So I don't want to waste any further time, so let's start. So Alireza is playing with the white pieces and he opens the game with 1 e4. We have e6, the French defense, d4, d5, knight to c3, bishop to b4. We have the Vinavo variation, e5, c5, and now we have the move a3 by Firouzja. So the main way is to take and you can play the move knight to e7, queen g4, queen c7, or you can even take on d4. So this is kind of the main line. But after a3, Levon decided to play a sideline with bishop to a5. And after bishop a5, Alireza strike in the queen side by playing the move b4. A very good move. And now you have the move c into d4 by Levon Aronian. If he goes for capturing the b4 pawn in this position, Alireza's idea is to play knight to b5. And now the idea is to play knight to d6 check, like losing the castling rights. And so if black tries to go back with bishop c7 covering the d6 square, white can play queen g4, attack the g6 pawn, king f8, a into b4, and this position is at least better for white, very comfortable. I would say it is nearly plus 1.5 because black has lost his castling rights. White can easily go for capturing the bishop pair, and like white is having absolutely no problem in this position, and white is definitely having a better position. So that's exactly what happens if black plays bishop c7. If black goes for capturing the a3 pawn, we have c3, bishop goes back again, once again covering the d6 square, but after queen g4, g6, bishop d3, bishop d7, I can at least take on c7, followed by knight e2, bishop a3 is coming up, white would be having the bishop pair with the complete dark square domination, and the position is already better for white because white is also having the open a and the b file at the same time. So this position is at least better for white. So that's why at the place of going in the wrong way, c into b4, which looks very tempting if you are seeing the position for the first time, but Levon is pretty prepared, so he take on d4, and now we have queen to g4 by Firouzja. If he goes for capturing the bishop, Firouzja is losing his knight, and the position is fine for black. So that's why queen g4. You can't really take on c3 because of queen g7 you are losing the rook and you are also losing the bishop. So now we have king f8 defending the g6 pawn, knight to b5 attacking the bishop, bishop b6, knight to f3, finally developing the pieces and also threatening to take on d4. Knight to c6, and now we have bishop to b2. You can't really take now on d4 because now we have knight d4. We have knight d4, and after knight d4 the position is fine for white. So at the place of taking first, Firouzja developed his position with bishop b2, and now he is fully prepared to take on d4 now. So we have f6, and now he takes back the pawn with the b knight. The point is pretty clear. If you try to take on e5, I'm going to take on e6 with a check. So I'm not really losing material. So we have knight e5, fe5, knight e6 check. You have to take on e6 or else you're losing the queen. Bishop takes, queen to f6. And here, Firouzja simply traded off the queen and played the move c4. So this position is at least better for white, I would say, because white is having the bishop pair and at the same time the position is opening. Like the position is kind of open, there is nothing closed. So bishop pair is having a good advantage in this position and white is definitely slightly better. We have knight e7 and now we have take. Okay, the question is why he pushed his c pawn? Because c2 is kind of a backward pawn trying to remove the weakness, so playing c4 makes a lot of sense. So after c4 we have knight e7, takes, and now we have a long castle by Firouzja, which was a bad move. He should have played rook g1 attacking the knight. The knight goes back g3 developing the bishop via g2, and the position is already very comfortable for white, and white is definitely slightly better. But the problem with long castle here is it allowed Aronian to get the bishop pair. How? We have a check, the king move, and now we have knight c3 check. You have to capture the knight or else you are going to lose an exchange. So with this, Firouzja lost his bishop pair advantage. We have rook d7, rook goes back, we have a rook trade, bishop to d3. So it looks like an even position now. We have opposite color bishop. Should be a draw, right? Not so easy. Whenever the rooks are on the board, there is still chances for any side can win the game. We have bishop king to e7, and now we have bishop e4, centralizing the bishop, attacking the pawn. And if you try to push the b pawn now, after b5, it is already looking pretty happy. And I'm not really I'm not really kind of cornered to push b5. I can push b5 in the future, but for now I can get the rook into the game. Maybe b5 can also come in handy in the future. The position is good for white. So a5 was played, and now we have king b2. You can't really go for taking over here because after takes rook b8, you are losing the pawn and it's a dead draw position then. So we have king b2, takes, and now we have bishop b6. So the point here is you can't really defend this pawn with rook b8 because you are losing the ace. You are losing the h7 pawn. And if you try to push this pawn, which is kind of an idea, which is not bad, black could have went for pushing up this pawn, but it allowed white to march his king forward. So instead we have bishop b6 attacking the pawn, f3, and now we have h5 because you are losing a pawn now. So we have takes, pawn push, but the position is still drawish in the point of computer perspective, though it's extremely hard for white. Like it's extremely hard for a human. We have h4 now, rook c1, rook d8, rook c2, bishop g1, we have a trade of pawn, and now we have pawn push, and now we have e4, which was a blunder. Aronian should have took the pawn on g4. We have rook g2. Obviously, if you take over here, this is a dead draw position. So we have rook g2, bishop goes back, rook takes, and now you have to play rook d8. You can't play rook into g4 because after takes, the position is actually winning for white. Like it somehow looks like how can this be winning? But this is winning because I can just protect this pawn, stop this pawn, and I can basically get the king to advance like this and basically get the bishop for the pawn and eventually win this pawn. Like with this pawn, I can make a queen and win the game. So this is winning. So you have to play rook to d8, and after check, the position is still like very complicated, but the position is kind of fine for black. This should have been the best. But instead, we had e4, which turned out to be the blunder because now we have takes, and now white is simply 2 pawn up. A complete 2 pawn up winning game for white. We have rook g3, rook over here, takes, and now we have this position, which is a question: is this a win or is this a draw? Okay, the point here is the position is completely winning for white, but you have to get up with a plan. So how to win this position? So first of all, you have to like this pawn is kind of restricting black to keep the king on the king side, and now you have to use your king to march forward and use this pawn to get this bishop, and eventually with this pawn make a queen and win the game. So now we have king over here, the bishop goes back, so a couple of moves were played, and now finally Alireza decided to push his b pawn. And now you can't really push this pawn so easily because the bishop is going to block it. So like bishop a5, and now bishop over here. You can't push the pawn because after here you are losing the pawn and it's a draw. So that's why getting the king over here. And now it looks like if black is having some kind of fortress in this position. No, black is not. It's a completely winning position for white. Now white's idea is to get the king get the king to the other side. So king over here, we have the king over here. And now Alireza is trying to figure out something because you can't put the king over here because the bishop is covering it. So maybe putting the king over here makes sense. I don't know. Let's see. We have like both the players were trying to maneuver the pieces. Basically, Alireza is the one trying to maneuver the pieces. And after bishop on e6, if you try to move the king, we have king f7 now. And if we go back with the king, I am having king h7, the king goes over here, and king g6. And the point here is, you move the king, I can push the pawn. And if you move the bishop, I can push this pawn. And if you move the bishop over here, I can push this pawn. With a check, I can first pull my bishop back, and now I'm threatening to push the pawn. Like the bishop comes over here, but the bishop comes over here. So basically now it's a kind of winning thing. Like this is winning, and if you move the king, this is winning. And if you yeah, it's completely winning. So yeah, this is what happens. But instead we have, so that's why we had bishop over here, and now we have this position. Bishop goes back because white want to push the pawn because the bishop is hanging. So the bishop falls back first, and now we have bishop d3. And now finally we have a zigzag position, which is completely winning for white, because if you move the king, I can push the pawn. If you move the bishop over here, I can push this pawn, and if you move the bishop over here, I can push this pawn, which is completely winning. In the game, we had bishop e5, and now we have b6. So after b6, Levon decides to resign the game because this position is completely winning for Alireza Firouzja. I can just put the pawn over here now, and then I can just push this pawn because you can't really take the pawn because I can make the queen. And this is completely winning. That's it. So on the move number 72, Alireza Firouzja won the game. And in the second game, Alireza Firouzja once again win the game against Aronian with the black pieces. So now finally Alireza is going to battle against Magnus Carlsen once again, and let's see who is going to be the victorious this time. So a very interesting and impressive endgame displayed by Alireza Firouzja to win against Levon Aronian. Like there was a single mistake that I personally felt made by Alireza Firouzja, which was to give up the bishop pair. It was happen like around this position when he does a long castle. He should have played rook g1 because long castle simply allowed Aronian to get the bishop pair, and this is kind of drawish, but still, Alireza Firouzja displayed a very impressive endgame skills, and he was able to win the game, like centralizing the bishop and eventually winning the game, getting a pawn up and eventually winning the game. So yeah, that was the game. So guys, if you learned anything new from this video, anything new from this game, I think this video might have helped you to improve your endgame skills. So yeah, if it did, make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these more interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching OneShot Chess.